Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about Harper spanning. All right, so what is Harper spanning? Well, Harper spanning is a really important thing in tabletop role-playing games. It's very specific to the design of Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, which I believe the design on that new edition has already begun. All right, so today we're going to be talking about John Harper, the creator of Blades in the Dark, and we're going to be talking about Kate Welch. Okay, all right, so basically Harper spanning is a super important design element within tabletop role-playing game design that specifically deals with John Harper, that was identified by Kate Welch. All right, so Kate Welch, absolute rock star in tabletop role-playing game design. She won the position that every single person wanted, which was the panoptically heralded game, Dungeons & Dragons 18 game design position. She is the new designer for Dungeons & Dragons working on 5th edition. I believe Kate Welch will be the lead designer for 6th edition. And I believe that because of her 100-day launch, right? I believed it before she even started, because I think she's the first and only panoptically heralded Dungeons & Dragons 18 game designer that, you know, she's the first and only, right? Okay. And I could see why Mike Merle's hired her, right? Because of her first 100 days, what she's already doing. Okay, so Kate Welch has already sat down. She made a decision to sit down with one of the top, early on, right away. She's made a decision to sit down with one of the top indie game designers in the world. Okay, now tabletop role-playing game indie design, there's a tri-fork. There's a fork that goes in 3 directions for indie design. And what is that fork? Okay, so I guess fork is 2, but I'm using 3 here. So anyway, it is Cypher, Monty Cook, brilliant system, brilliant person. Okay, it is Fred Hicks, Fate, brilliant brilliant person, brilliant system. Okay, it is Adam Cobell, and Sage Latora, Dungeon World. Okay, that is Powered by the Apocalypse. Okay, but in my opinion, I know this. So Sage Latora, Adam Cobell, Dungeon World. Okay, that is the 3rd branch. Okay, those systems. Now the 3rd system is Powered by the Apocalypse, right? So I do need to talk about that for a minute. Why am I talking about Powered by Apocalypse, but then talking about Adam Cobell and Sage Latora, rather than the creator of Powered by the Apocalypse, which is Vincent Baker? Okay, here's why. Vincent Baker is an absolutely brilliant person. He is an incredibly good game designer, but he's like a moth to the flame. He flies very close to content that is incredibly uncommercial, right? Which I know we're talking about the indie scene, but a lot of the indie stuff, they want people to play those games, right? Whereas I feel like Vincent Baker, he is the father of the Powered by the Apocalypse system, right? But that system had to be plucked from the sharp, edgy surroundings of itself and pulled into the light by Adam Cobell and Sage Latora. And so I really feel the passion and the momentum behind Powered by the Apocalypse comes from Adam Cobell and Sage Latora, not Powered by the Apocalypse's actual creator, Vincent Baker. And I think proof of this is Baker's last game, Inheritance, which is a LARP game that I kind of feel like he's not admitting it's a LARP game. It's kind of weird. All right, so anyway, so you have those 3 forks. You have Cypher, you have Fate, you have Dungeon World, okay? You have Powered by the Apocalypse. I'm actually going to say Dungeon World because I really think that's the relevant game in there. And that's the system that people are really using, in my opinion. All right. Kate Welch, she is just like a radiating element within tabletop role-playing games right now, because everybody, she has the job that everybody wanted, right? And so when she makes a move, right, it's all eyes on me, for her, she has this unique celebrity that has just within the past few years grown up around celebrity DMs, and I have to admit that came from Matt Mercer. and celebrity game designers Mike Merles, okay, and Chris Perkins, right? But she is now, has been brought forward, and for the first time ever, the word, the term panoptically heralded has been attached to a designer position within Dungeons & Dragons. So it's really, really critical that all the choices she's making now are actually very important, and there's a really significant occurrence that's attached to each one. So she had the choice to sit down with Monty Cook. She had the choice to sit down with Fred Hicks. She had the choice to sit down with Adam Cobell and Sage Latoura. I don't believe for 1 second that none of them would not have taken her call and gone out to have dinner with Kate Welch as soon as possible, right? If she made that call to them, right? But she didn't. She chose John Harper, right? And here's why Kate Welch is the brilliant, shining future of Dungeons & Dragons. And the reason why is Harper spanning. Okay, I believe that Kate Welch chose to sit down and talk with John Harper first because John Harper spans the two viable indie threads that can be put into safely Dungeons & Dragons. And both of them are tied together by the brilliant John Harper. Okay, John Harper wrote Blades in the Dark. Okay, John Harper wrote Ghost Lines. John Harper wrote Lasers and Feelings, right? John Harper wrote Lady Blackbird. The vast majority, you can get free copies, you can get quick starts of Blades in the Dark, and I think all the rest of those games are absolutely free, and they are amazing, right? So if you're not reading them, if you're not using them, check them out. They're really, really stunning games, right? But this is interesting. So John Harper started with his heavy influences being Powered by the Apocalypse. Ghostline, one of his early games, is actually coming from specifically Powered by the Apocalypse. It has a Powered by the Apocalypse core, right? So John Harper read Powered by the Apocalypse, he read Apocalypse World, he read Dungeon World, and he went, oh my gosh, my eyes are open, and he made this brilliant game called Ghostlines, right? And then he went further and he worked on Lasers and Feelings and a few others, right? It's possible Lasers and Feelings came before Ghostlines. All right, and so he's a Powered by the Apocalypse person, right? Wrong. So he started with Powered by the Apocalypse, but then he spanned over into Fate, right? Now, why do I say he spanned into Fate? Well, the reason why is Blades in the Dark, John Harper's awesome opus of a tabletop role-playing game, is published by Fred Hicks, who created Fate, right? So John Harper, his name is known in the Powered by Apocalypse circles. His name is now known in the Fate circles because he has a strong relationship with the Fate publisher, right? He spans two of the three prongs in the fork, right? Now, what about Cypher? Why is Cypher out of the mix, right? Why did Kate Welch not choose to talk to anybody from Monty Cook Games or Monty Cook himself? Well, there's a really good reason for that. Monty Cook was brought in to build 5th edition. He was recognized by Merle as a titan of tabletop role-playing game design, and he failed that team. Okay? Now, I want to be clear, Monty Cook is absolutely brilliant. When it comes, and what he has accomplished with Monty Cook Games, right? With Numenera, with The Strange, with Predation, with Cypher. Cypher is amazing, right? He really is an amazing, he's more than a game designer. He's an industry titan within tabletop role-playing games. And he has created the greatest company that for indie tabletop role-playing games, right? Actually, Dungeons & Dragons has very few competitors, right? The three that I just mentioned are all competitors, and also everything that happens at FFG. FFG is its own special thing. They're not indie at all. They're highly mainstream, right? And their stuff is amazing. But the reason why is I think Monty Cook to this day is person non grata at Dungeons & Dragons, and there's a reason for that. They needed him. They brought him in for 5th edition. He quit in the middle of design for 5th edition, right? Quit the team, disrupted the team in my opinion, right? And then went off and built his own empire, right? Within what he has right now, within tabletop role-playing games, that's as close as there is to an empire, right? They have a real building, real offices, real employees. You know, like, they're one of the few people in the tabletop role-playing industry where when they hire you, you can get, like, health benefits. Like that, you know, that's a major accomplishment within TRPGs, right? But Kate Welch could not really circle them in. If she had done that, she would have spent a lot of her own credit that she already had, you know, just trying to smooth over all the feathers that were ruffled when Monty Cook quit in the middle of 5th edition design, right? So John Harper, by Kate Welch sitting down, by Kate Welch identifying the Harper span and saying, I am going to connect with John Harper in my first 100 days, and I'm going to make that connection public, right? Now, I think John Harper made it public, but, you know, Kate Welch certainly understands social media, right? And I think she was like, okay, I'm going to let this happen, right? Because, you know, John Harper's a cool guy. If she had said, I don't want this going public, let's not let the world see that Dungeons and Dragons is about to have a lot of influences from Powered by the Apocalypse and Fate, right? You know, then she would not have, you know, publicly met with John Harper with pics to prove it, you know, in the first 100 days of her time at Wizards of the Coast. So I can't tell you how excited I am about this whole situation. Harper spanning is huge. John Harper spans across 2/3 of the indie tabletop role-playing game scene. And then, in addition to that, I think Kate Welch very carefully identified that, you know, the one other prong, Cypher, which is brilliant, and there's a lot of beautiful ideas that could come from Cypher into Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. It can't, because of the choices that Monty Cook made. And by the way, I don't want to say that I think Monty Cook was wrong. I do wish that his influence was throughout the entirety of 5th edition design. And there's nowhere in my head that understands why anyone would walk out in the middle of designing a Dungeons and Dragons edition, a new edition. That is like the most, you know, brilliant, beautiful work in the world for any game designer, and it boggles my mind. I call it the Cook cleave, like that he left in the middle of that. To this day, I think there should be like 3 books written about that entire circumstance, and I don't think anybody but Mike Mearls and Monty Cook truly know what actually happened then. You know, and it is a forking branch within the history of tabletop role-playing games, because when that happened, Monty Cook started working on Monty Cook Games, and Cypher and what's going on at Monty Cook right now is huge within the indie tabletop role-playing game scene. And so it's really, really important, everything that was accomplished within that sphere, right? So all of this is is a lot to take in, but I really feel it's absolutely critical to understand that Kate Welch is brilliant. I think she knows exactly what she's doing, right? She's, you know, Kendrick Lamar. He's one of the greatest rappers that's ever rapped, right? And the reason why is his influences, right? It's his influences. He identified the right people, studied their work, and brought in influences from the right people. And I think that's what Kate Welch is doing right now. And honestly, I now see John Harper as like a kingpin. He's a swivel for like half the talent, half the best, you know, for 2/3 of the best talent in the industry are all connected to John Harper because of what he accomplished, starting with Powered by the Apocalypse, right? And then ending with Fate, right? And avoiding the one indie prong that cannot go into Dungeons and Dragons because of the bad history that Monty Cook has with Dungeons and Dragons, right? And he created some amazing stuff for 3rd edition. Mike Mearls worked for Malhavoc Press, right? So that's another thing is I had, you know, there was a switch where, you know, Monty Cook was working for Mike Mearls, and then Mike Mearls was working for Monty Cook, and then Monty Cook is working for Mike Mearls. You know, that had to be painful, right? Man, I want that book. I want like 3 books written about that day. You know, like what happened there. And you know, and so and how, you know, the ramifications from the cook cleave echo to this day and are affecting Kate Welch now, and the way she just masterfully navigated around it by talking to John Harper first, circling in everybody she would need, in my opinion, for Powered by the Apocalypse, everybody she would need for Fate, because I think John Harper is well respected in both of those communities. And I think, and the reality is, John Harper's so brilliant, he's going to be respected wherever he goes. But I'm just so excited for 6th edition and what's happening right now for 6th edition design. Take care.